What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about a situation that's quite fascinating. This is the story of Maddie Hollerman. Uh, this isn't the first time I've heard a story like this, but the basic idea is a very high achieving person who seems to have it perfect on many levels, who ends up killing themselves out of depression. I heard this story again from a different person, and this man was a star athlete, six pack abs, doing well in school academically, all this stuff from the outside, which would seem like okay, they have all these things together, and yet they end up doing something like this. They seem to have a immensely amazing social life, all these things that you don't have. And they have that all, and yet they don't, they're not fulfilled or happy, and this ends up occurring. So I think it's very, it's tragic, of course, and also kind of fascinating, and it's shocking how this can occur. So, um, anyhow, let's get into this story. Um, so this occurred about, I think, a year ago, and just now, I think they're releasing more information about what happened. So, Maddie Hollerman, she was a star athlete, went to the University of Pennsylvania, was in track and field, and everything seemed to be going well. She actually has her Instagram page, which is still public right now. It has about 20,000 followers. The username is Maddie Holleran, Maddylleran, and she takes really good photos for Instagram, and it is just kind of ridiculous looking at it because it seems like she has such an amazing life. Her social life is on point. She's always smiling, laughing in her photos. She's not only is she a great athlete, not only does she have um, uh, good grades, not only is she going to a prestigious school, but all her photos of her make it seem that she has such a great social life. She's going to these uh, parties, she's going to these engagements, she's going to all this stuff, which again, the rest of us, I don't think we can do. And then on top of that, she literally is happy and she's very good looking. And she has all these outfits on, all this fashion and style and so forth. And she's unhappy. And I think it's very tragic, and maybe there's a lesson we can take from this. Um, that's another interesting point about social media, which is that um, all these things you see on YouTube or on Instagram or on Facebook, those may just be the 1% of their life. It may just be a depiction of what they want you to think their life is like. Um, yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I don't spend all that time being social or outgoing and all that stuff. I don't have the life that these people have on Instagram and so forth. So you can definitely get drawn into that thing of, oh my goodness, I'm just sitting here at my computer and look at these people sailing away, having a ball of a time on their yachts. So you can get very sucked into that and be consumed by jealousy, envy, all these things that you want to avoid, all these emotions you want to avoid: jealousy, envy, greed, um, resentment. These are things that you want to avoid if you want to keep your mental health and remain happy. So that's something I've picked up after reading a bunch of books on that. Those are things you want to avoid yourself. On the flip side, though, I mean, it's just very fascinating just scrolling through her Instagram photos. This person seemed to be very happy. She seemed to be having a great time. Like, literally, there's photos with her in all these outfits, at parties, going to these events, taking these amazing photos of different places, smiling, laughing, um, all these things, and pictures with her and her family, pictures in her with uh, guys, with boyfriends, seemingly having a great life. She's a very attractive girl. She seemed to have a great social life, all these friends, and something just doesn't seem to work out. So I just want to give what I take as my analysis of her situation based off the things I've learned about happiness. I'm not an expert at it, but I do think that there's some things that I think are the triggers or things that could have been worked on to help her. She was seeing a therapist eventually, and based on the interviews of her, it seems that she was having a different time rather than what her photos and everything she put out online seemed to suggest. So I think that's the same for a lot of people. Um, you know, you can assume things based off these things put out on the internet, but um, when she's on her own or when she's not taking these photos, apparently she was not that happy often, and she didn't smile much, or she started not smiling much. So she eventually started taking therapy and so forth. So, um, I highly suggest if anyone's going through this, start listening or watching or reading Anthony Robbins programs, Anthony Robbins books, particularly the ones geared towards happiness and fulfillment and so forth. I just read a really, really good one. I think it very much helped me. And he just goes through all these things. He just has a gift for it. And I really do think that he can help you out for sure if you're ever feeling like this. I know I've been there for sure, and it's very, very helpful. Um, he talks about all these things, about how all these people have it much worse, and it just snaps you out of your reality. And then he goes through all these human needs that you may be missing. Um, and I can't remember all six off the top of my head, but there are things like feeling special, feeling you need some, you're recognized, having variety in your life. Um, I can't remember the other ones, but you can Google it. And he just goes through all these things about you need to feel fulfilled, you need to help others, and I mean, just check it out for yourself. Uh, anyhow, based off my experience, this is what I think may have been helpful to her, and it may help you out if you're going through something similar. So, first thing, there is a certain level of genetics involved in this for sure. What I've been trying to do is take from the people who are genetically wired to be more happy. There have been scientific studies done on this, and apparently your genetics in terms of your natural range of happiness accounts for up to 40 to 60% of your levels of happiness on a day-to-day basis, or lack thereof. And for Maddie, or Madison, she had maybe a very clear genetic ancestral history of depression in both sides of her family. So this culminated into how she was. And I mean, it's just kind of scary because, I mean, if I were to see a girl so attractive in person, like most people would, you would assume that they have all these things going together. Nowadays, for me, I'm more and more cautious of someone who's, and maybe cautious isn't the right word to use, but I try not assume a lot of things. I I don't assume that they're always happy, that they have their life together, that everything's going well for them, that everything's perfect for them. Nor do I assume that they won't like me because I'm not handsome or all this stuff. And I don't assume that, okay, this is the perfect girl for me either, just based off her looks. So anyhow, with Maddie, I just feel like one thing was genetics. Genetics put her on a state where she was just naturally more on an unhappy level. And for people like this, you have to just uh, your natural state and your propensity is going to be inclined to a depressive state of nature. Why is that the case? I do think that there's variation, of course, on a population-wide basis because of how natural selection works. And unfortunately, this may have been a very useful trait in terms of human species survival hundreds or thousands of years ago. But in terms of the modern society we live in, these levels of depressiveness do not really help us in terms of being able to survive in our current state. Unfortunately, it's not, it doesn't help us. In the past, maybe it would have because it amplifies any sort of negative events that occur. If we dwell on the positive, or just we look on the positive, and this comes from me reading the book. I can't remember which one. I think it was Before Happiness. If we dwell on the positive, that wouldn't have helped us in our ancestral habitats, because one instance of overlooking the negative would have caused our death. Tiger or whatever else would have eaten us. Whereas nowadays, this propensity to dwell on these things is not useful. So genetically, she was at a disadvantage. Um, and so that was a problem. Uh, Understanding that could have helped slightly. Um, in just understanding that your natural state is going to be push you down, and to realize that, okay, um, naturally, when an average person would just be okay, maybe not so for me. So understanding that could be very helpful in just working towards things. So I've done some videos on this, and this is what I would go through first in analyzing her. So there's the four pillars, and then there's other factors involved. Community, family, faith, and what's the last one? I should know these better, but community, family, faith, and what's the last one? I'll get to the last one. Community. This involves things like having real strong social relationships